welcome my fellow leaders and entrepreneurs, visionary minds and people. In this video, we're going to talk about what is behind and beyond, if you've been wondering about all of the UFOs that sort of seem to be popping up more and more, and there's been discussions around plasma, or people have been seeing that. TikTok is all kind of flooded with videos about that and discussion. People are wondering. Then number two, we're going to talk about different and new additional perspectives about what's going on in the world, with special focus on what Mr. Trump and I want to say his government, his organization, affiliates, maybe people surrounded with him and by him, what are they actually, like, what is going on? Okay, giving you more perspectives on what is happening so you can find your own truth in that. And number three thing that we're going to talk about in this video here today, looking at my notes here, is you as the leader personally, whether you're an entrepreneur or you're an organizational leader, you're driving things. So what is this time that we're in here now in the middle of February 25? What is it calling you to do at the moment? Like, what is the invitation that you're getting by what the world might be reflecting to you, and how it might make you feel in case you feel a little bit overwhelmed, confused, find it harder to take decisions, or see more controversial discussions and you feel different than before, even though you know you're a strong leader and strong decision maker, yet times are changing. And that means it also requires you and it calls you to change a few things. So that is essentially the three things this video is about. Before, this is the first video of a new channel, of a new show, if you want. There's no title of this as of yet, and tapping into the field and into my own guidance, this may be something to co-create with you. So if you feel after you watch this, you listen to this, you feel like you have an idea for a title, what the show could be called, like, just put it in the comments and we'll find out what we're going to call this. Okay. So a few things before I start to dive into these three topics. I am Judith. I am under the brand The Venture Visionary. And what I do underneath that brand with my business is I do consulting, coaching, and channeling / psychic analysis, wisdom sharing, and also transformation. So basically everything is around transformation for entrepreneurs, seasoned entrepreneurs, leaders in organizations, to support them to find their own truth and go through the elevation, the human evolution that is required as of now in the times that we're in, to be leading in the future with more clarity in the broadest sense. Okay, so all my work is about unlocking human potential and providing and connecting people back to their power and supporting them to see the bigger vision of where they're going with their ventures, aka Venture Visionary me. Okay, everything that I am providing in these videos here, to give you a bit of perspective, the intention is to give you additional information so that you can find your own truth. I'm in no means giving you information to tell you this is the truth and this is the one and only pathway to do something or look at something or whatever it may be we're going to talk about. One of the gifts I have is higher vision, which enables me to see perspectives that a lot of other people don't see. And this is the major intention of these videos here, give you additional perspectives that will give you and provide you a new database based on which you can make decisions of your own. I'm inviting you, with all the information I'm providing here, to find your own truth in that. Okay. And also, everything I'm sharing here may not be for everyone. So if you find no resonance to the content of these videos, just politely keep scrolling, move on to the next video. That's completely fine. I'm just asking everyone to be respectful. If this is not yours, it's fine. Just keep on moving. No need to comment in any way on that one. If you love this, if you do resonate, you have a question or you want to add something, please feel free. Also, again, be respectful with everyone in the community, other people who might be commenting. This is not about who is right or wrong, because this whole life and everything we do is not about right or wrong, but in finding your own power and your own truth. And all of us being in the highest potential, delivering to the world what we came here for, once we remember. Okay, so having said that, last thing to share with you before I tap into the first of the 3 topics for today, because you may be asking, how do you know, or where do you get, what is your sources? And very brief for you, through my own ascension journey, if you want, my own evolution, remembering back who I am, including past lives, which is more the human side of the experiences I've had on this planet, gives access to wisdom. But also I'm drawing a lot of what I sort of know, what I remember from the cosmic parts of my identity that I have reintegrated, remembered, right? The word says it, it's members of who we are. And I've remembered a lot of parts that are also cosmic. For example, I have a part within me that is Lyran, or part of me that is Arcturian. Okay, Google these things. If this is the first time you're listening or you're hearing these words, just Google about that. This video is not going to dive deeper. So this is me remembering from own remembrance of soul, if you want, and heritage from that side, as well as human past lives. And I do have a lot of open channels to different beings or tribes in the cosmos, in the universe. I can also channel the Ashtasheran consciousness, which is basically the Galactic or a Galactic Federation Council, okay, with a lot of peace mission, but it's like a huge council with several hundred beings, entities, consciousnesses in there, and there's a lot of information coming down for humanity. So every now and then I'm having connection with them and I get information through them. Or it is through, for example, I have a lot of connection and information exchange with the Arcturian beings and tribes. We hear something from them today as well. So there's different cosmic channels that I have opened, that I have been communicating with for the last 2-3 years, consciously and actively, as I started to remember and reconnect and learn to understand. We may hear, depends on how things come through for me, some light language as well in these sessions. I do channel in light languages as well. But that may be the case in some videos, it may not. All right, amazing. So let's start. All of this is for your own discernment, to find your own truth in that, all right? So, and these videos will be structured in 3 topics, like categories that we will walk through. I'm taking a look at my notes to give you the right information, okay? So we will always have a topic that is around like an energy update for human evolution, okay? And this will be also our first topic today. Second category is always some aspect on how you look at the world from a higher vantage point. What is happening, going on in the world, and what other perspectives can I provide for you to consider, and then see how you feel about it, what additional information it might provide for you or no. And the third category is I'm calling that like a leader call, what we're invited to rise into now and give you some perspective on that as well, and some insights, okay? So let's start with the first one, which is basically like, when you look at human evolution, where we are at, like what's going on at the moment, what's hot on the press. And connected to that, when you remember back the beginning of the video, I asked, like, when you were wondering about these UFO appearances, and with that connected, a lot of plasma talk is going on, right? I know this is not super new, but end of 24, beginning of 25 now, this seemed to be more present, more appearances in the sky, a lot in the US as well, but not only appeared and people noticed and recorded videos. And so if you open TikTok, there's a whole lot of information about this. So, and the plasma topic came to me a couple of days ago as well, through Arcturian and some other sources. But when I reconnected to what that is, I also got a communication, if you want, with one Arcturian being, and I was able to ask questions like, why are we seeing this? What is the plasma thing about, right? It is, when you look at the chemistry of it, if you Google that, this is like an ionized gas, if you want. So it is something that is on the planet here anyways. So it's kind of like a natural resource. And it's just about what what kind of material status, like what is it liquid, is it gas, is it plasma, is it solid, like, you know, what status, if you want, is the natural resource in. And plasma is a sort of, you just want to look at from that kind of physical scientific approach, it's an ionized gas. And it is actually, that is what I didn't know before as well, if you look at the whole universe of which we are all part, including our planet and our bodies and everything that we are, when we remember all, we are all energy and everything is energy, then plasma actually is the form of material, of matter, that has the highest share of everything that is in the universe, right? So when we consider this information, and now we see that somehow apparently now is a time where we as humanity are being introduced and reconnected to this concept and the idea and this material of plasma, because we see more of that somehow. It is now showing up somehow in the sky. And there's been, I think in the US, there were also people who were observing like plasma fields, something that looked like it was vibrating, and people couldn't make sense of that, right? And if you just look at one of these things as a standalone, it is kind of confusing and it doesn't really make sense, right? But so I got connected to this energy and this concept and the remembrance of what this is about. And through that conversation with this Arcturian being, I'm going to look at my notes here in a second to make sure I'm bringing this across to you. I was invited, I asked if I'm supposed to share this information, and it was a part of information that I was supposed to share online with you, and this is what I'm doing now, okay? So overall, the energy of plasma as a frequency, if you want, is quite feminine, which was interesting, right? So it is something very aligned to where we're moving in the world. The higher share of a feminine concept is reintegrating overall. So it wasn't very surprising to me that also the plasma energy, like the frequency of it, felt very, when I reconnected with that, also within my cells and my body, okay? It felt quite feminine. So just that as an information, a bit standalone. And the conversation, then I asked this Arcturian being, I'm like, what is the plasma energy for? Like overall, what does it serve? And there were two answers. And one is applicable a bit more like now-ish, not too far in the future, like now. And he said, which I found interesting, it serves as a transmitter for the old money, like the fiat money, the currencies that we know, like the euro, the US dollar, right? The money as we know money, to come along into the new world of where we're moving more into digital currencies, okay? So, and in this video, I'm not going to dive too deep into the whole concept of digital currencies. Probably there'll be another video to shed some more light on this concept, because there's a lot to share about this as well. But I found that quite interesting. So the resource of plasma, I don't want to call it technology, it's a resource of plasma, is being brought back to us, or we're being reconnected to remember more about this and its existence, right? And one purpose, just one purpose of it, is also that in some way it will help and support that we can bring along the old fiat currencies into the newer financial systems, which are all more blockchain oriented, okay? And you will see that this might make sense for you in a minute. I'm going to share a few more things, come back to that. So that is one purpose I've been told. Then I asked, what is the higher purpose of the plasma appearing on the planet now? So what is the higher purpose that this is coming like now-ish, end of 24, beginning of 25? Why is there more appearances than in the past, right? Of that thing that exists anyway. So, and he says, plasma is a new source of energy for your planet, and several of you will remember how to use it. That's where it connects back to, when you look at that, it is a major material, if you want, of the whole universe. So material, put that a little bit in vertical commas, right? Or a resource, maybe we can call it like that, a natural resource that has the highest share in the whole universe. So meaning our planet and we as a civilization, as humanity, are also being brought maybe a step closer into that evolution state to reconnect and recombine, if we want, with where we some point come from. Okay, so it's a new source of energy for the planet, right? And so more people will start to remember, and this is one of the purposes why I was supposed to talk about this and to share. Maybe one of you listening now is getting a notch here and something activates. I wouldn't be surprised. My energy is quite activating when people interact with me, triggers a lot of times in a positive way, something within them that activates as well, whether that is remembering something or they're just, feeling activated to finally take action on something or take a decision, whatever it is. So if that is you, maybe it triggers something in you and you remember something about plasma that you have not remembered yet before. Okay. So, and he said as well, when I asked okay, what does that mean? The usage of energy, what does that mean? And he said it will be used for blockchain-based transactions. And here we go. It comes circling back to the financial system. And it will contribute to lower gas fees. So apparently, I don't know how that physically or technically will function. I don't know. That is not my purpose. My purpose is to bring across the information and somebody else will remember how that technically works. Okay. But apparently this material will be used in blockchain connected transactions, which obviously are not only on the financial end, but the whole internet is moving on the blockchain technology, right? That's why it's called Web3. All right, so it will enhance how we can use this. And it completely makes sense if you think of the idea overall that we are moving in this paradigm shift of going into network connected structures, coming from very hierarchical structures everywhere you look. How a country is organized, how a business is organized, very hierarchical from the past, coming now, moving into a more vertical network structure as a concept. Okay, so this fits into this idea of having something that is naturally available anyways, that will help and support the network structures and also stabilize it. And to that, I want to share one other thing. Before there's the last part here about plasma, because if you think about stabilizing, when I say stabilizing in the blockchain structure, the plasma for you as a person, for us as humans, has also a support function. This is what I saw a day later when I was connected. It is while your body and your cells are also kind of reprogrammed, rewired. We're all going through these upgrades, right? Which you may have been experiencing more or less consciously, depending on where you are in this journey. And that means when your cells and everything is rewired to come back to the original state, if you want, it might feel a little bit loose. It might feel that it's a lot of loose pieces and loose ends, which lack a little bit of structure, which we need to have a bit more stability again in the new way that it's operating, okay? And the plasma energy, when we allow it into our system, which happens when we allow call that evolution process or the personal growth process or the ascension process, whatever you want to call that, okay? But this journey, the more we allow it, and then we can actively bring in the energy. I can channel the energy and the frequency of plasma as well. So when I'm working with people, I'm starting now to bring this in as well. And the plasma then functions just as in the idea, stick with the picture of the blockchain network to stabilize the transactions, right? Because you've got a ton of different single units, which are then interconnected in a way. And that's the same how we as a human are wired, if you want. And if it gets an upgrade and gets rewired, the plasma will help to connect all of the separate pieces and give it stability by that. Okay, so this is another purpose why it's coming now, because humanity is in that phase of the ascension or the evolution of humanity, which comes back down to each and every person. And it also You may have heard that, right? It is affecting, in a way, your physical bodies as well, because we need to go down to cell level, okay? All right, but this may be also for another video, but I found that interesting. The last part about plasma is, because he said there's more purposes, and I asked what else will be there, and he said this is the last piece of the information, will be a bit further in the future, maybe 50 years, maybe 80 years, something like that. He said it will also be used in electricity supply, and also in a way that we haven't remembered yet. It's not created yet, because the picture he then showed me, what I saw, is basically how every human was a little bit, and was really positive. I don't be afraid when I'm saying what I'm about to say. Like, every one of us has their own little power plant, if you want, of plasma energy. And that enables you to have energy supply for a certain demand in your life all the time with you, because it comes from this natural resource. And you can also, I got curious, you can Google that, how you can, like they have, gosh, I'm not like a chemistry or a physics person, but there is plasma definitely has traits that are connected to support electricity in a way. There's different ways how these two things can interact in a way. So it is very likely that humanity will remember and figure out how we can cover a certain share of the demand of electricity that we need personally all of the time. Just think about lights in your apartment or charging your phone. You know, this is obviously not the big amounts compared to manufacturing sites, for example, but just imagine if plasma could, through this, cover maybe 28% of this demand globally. How cool would that be? All right, just another thought. Okay, cool. So let's come to part 2. That was number 1 now for the category of an energy update on human evolution. So this was about plasma and why are we seeing more of that now in the world at this time. Okay. Second topic is looking at the world, at what is going on from a bit of a higher vantage point. And this might be a little bit juicy now, because I'm going to share a few things about what I see, and that comes from my gift of higher vision. I have this very innately, very naturally in me to look at something and see from a higher vantage point and ask the question, okay, so not to get lost in the nitty-gritty, in the discussion here and the argumentation here, and in the who is right and who is wrong, and you know what should not be and what should be, etc., etc. To leave that and go to a higher vantage point and ask the question, what is actually happening here? What is additional information we can get? Again, this is not sharing, this is not negating others, it is adding. All right, it is adding. So when you listen to this now, keep breathing, be curious with an open mind. If you don't agree, that's okay. If you do agree, that's okay. If you halfway agree, that's okay. Okay, because it's not about wrong or right, but about adding more information, more perspectives to give a different opportunity of understanding something, which again enables different decisions and different solutions. And that is the whole purpose. Okay. And they may look completely different for 10 people watching this. And that is also the purpose. Okay. So, what I want to share is when we look at now, it's February 16th. Okay. So the US government under Trump is now for a couple of weeks. When was that inauguration? January 30 something. So it's about 2 to 3 weeks. It's active, if you want, right? And there's been all of these gazillion decisions and things that have been put into action already. I'm not going to dive into this in the single things. And we've seen the tariffs that have been put on. And right now the discussion has come over to Europe, because the information that we see is that there's now the topic on the agenda of what is going to happen with the Ukrainian war, and then the conversation between Trump and Putin. So you have the whole game of the US and Russia and the Ukrainian war, and then Europe kind of in the middle, and then obviously the whole positions are about who has what sort of power, and then what is the narrative here, and what could be like the hidden message over here, and what is the, you know, this is what is being communicated on top level, but what is the actual intention, and people start to be either mistrusting or starting to get frustrated or starting to be afraid or even more overwhelmed, etc., etc., etc. Okay, and one thing up front, no matter what sort of thing happening, even if it's completely not connected to anything US driven, there is a purpose for this high level of things happening in the world, not only now, but for the past 2 to 3 to 4 years, 5 years, you know, whenever you've started feeling that the pace of at which things keep happening has gotten to a pace where it feels like it does not leave you space to properly process and digest, and to be like, oh, let me sit with this for maybe a day or two and see what is my position on that, what is my opinion on that thing. You know, it feels like you can't have that space, because then the next big thing is going to happen, and the next thing is on all media, and you know, it's the next thing with an intensity of like, oh my freaking goodness, what is going on, right? Another ban, another topic, markets crash, another topic, political things are being blown up, whatever it is. You know, it feels like basically almost every day now there is something new coming for you to be consumed by it, in a way for you to not feel like you have space to digest all of that. And I'm just wanting you to know that there is a certain purpose of the speed of what is happening and how it's communicated. There is some intention behind that. I'm not going deeper into this in this video either, but for you to know, if you are in a position that you feel like, oh my goodness, right? Either it feels very overwhelming or it scares you, which I could totally understand, right? If you just look at all of the things through that one lens, it really feels like you're powerless. There's nothing you can do. Only bad things are happening. Everything is just getting worse. And there's nobody doing something against it, and you alone can't do anything. Okay? So if you feel any of that or all of that, don't feel ashamed. Acknowledge that you do. It's okay, because there's a lot. And remember, you have the power. You have the power to step back and allow space to digest. And if you then feel like, oh, but then I'm missing for 3 days the information, all of the new things that are coming, I'm kind of losing track of what's happening. Okay, it won't matter. It won't matter. Trust that what you need is most important. And if you need space off media, off online, off socials, whatever it is, for you to digest and come back to yourself, that is the most important thing to do. Please do so. Okay. All right. So what is it that I'm seeing, looking at where we are now at the moment, and also when we reflect on the last 3 weeks, whenever Trump's inauguration was, and with that, all of the things started to take place, and you have that JD Vance guy, and you have Elon Musk being obviously very prominently on the media everywhere and being quoted one way or the other way, and we have pictures, how people salute, and you know, all the craziness of how things are communicated. But we want to leave this layer of information for you. Now I'm saying, because I said it's the category of information here is called looking at things from a higher vantage point on purpose. Because when you're allowed to be sucked into these discussions, you won't come to a conclusion for yourself. You won't find your truth. You need a little bit distance to see the bigger picture, right? Following the idea of when I'm right in the center of it, I can't see the whole of it. So you have to go a little bit on the bird's eye view to gain clarity. That is the whole purpose. So what I'm seeing when I'm tapping into, it's 2 or 3 things I want to share here with you. First of all, the characters that we see right now that seem so triggering and so disruptive, which is Trump himself, which is Elon Musk. And I feel we're going to see in the same energy way now more also the JD Vance guy. Okay. Probably there will be a few more characters popping up. They don't necessarily have to be from the US, because I feel there will be some response from other areas in the world quite soon, right? Let me see what else I'm getting. Yeah, probably some character from Asia. Is it China? Probably will pop up as well in the same intensity. I don't see clearly now what the message exactly will be, but if we just look at how it is presented, how these characters are being there, which is very present, very clear, very straight, and very, I want to say, energetically. You can maybe even say commanding, okay? And I'm only describing now the way how they appear. It's not about the content at that point, right? So what is the purpose of that? There is a purpose why we're having these characters here. They have a purpose on this planet. And the purpose is not necessarily, if you look at all of the information detailed, if you look at all of the words exactly, let go. I'm inviting you a little bit to let go of the straight verbalized communication and see it from the higher vantage point, which is, what is that? It is a lot of clarity. Again, we're not looking at the content now to judge or to have the opinion, now, is this right or wrong, or do I agree or don't I agree? That is what you can figure out afterwards for yourself, okay? I'm not talking into that, but to understand what is the dynamic and also why this is serving at this moment in time for the planet, for all of us, even though it does not seem like it. It is serving, and there is a purpose for this happening. Because all the characters I've just already named, plus there will be, yeah, I'm getting confirmation again, there will be coming more voices that will be very present and very assertive and very appearing very strong and very disruptive and very enforcing. Okay, there is a purpose for that, because where we are in the world, everybody says we need change, we need a complete reset, we need something completely different, we need a new way in which companies are built, a new way in which we create and build societies and communities, we need new ways in which we have health systems set up, we need new ways for education. We know everybody talks about that, no matter which part of the globe you look at. Yeah, everybody is kind of agreeing on we need something new, but nobody is really creating something new at a bigger scale. There's a lot of ideas, it's all here, right? Everything we need is already here, but for the sake of it and a clear pathway for it to be able to surface more and to develop more, we need a little bit of disruption in a way to break open all of the old systems. And this is what these guys are doing at the moment. And this is the purpose. So forget a little bit, like each of the single separate steps they are doing. If you zoom into that, right, you can get caught into them. This is too right, and this is too dominating, and this is too manipulating. And of course, if you zoom into that, yes, right? If you ask my opinion, which is not relevant here, but do I fully agree with every single thing these characters are saying? No. But do I overall appreciate a lot that they are doing what they are doing right now? Absolutely, because they are the ones that are initiating the change in a way. And again, don't look and listen to the contextual part of they said this yesterday and then this guy said that 2 days ago and tomorrow they're going to say that. Is not here, but the sheer fact of how they trigger things to change and to break open. This is what we need, and this is the sole purpose of them being there right now. It may even be, I heard that somewhere else, I haven't gotten final confirmation from my end, that it may be that, for example, Trump might not last the whole 4 years of his presidency for various reasons. So it means there will be a time now, probably this whole year. Let me see if I can get a time dimension on that. this year, and it will go into 26 as well, where we have a period, probably like the next 14-ish month, where we will keep experiencing a lot of disruption, a lot of what feels scary, what feels very radical, what feels very, disruptive is the core of it. It is breaking open that what we know, and obviously that scares us. It's at the core of our humanness that we get scared when that what we know gets broken. Okay, but that is the purpose of it. Just understand from that point, and maybe that's an invitation to let go a little bit of every single word that is said. It's not about that, right? It's not about that. And also that is one thing I've tapped into Elon Musk's energy, like not deep, obviously, because I don't have permission to do that, but just reading what is visible a little bit, right? And also asking, like, what is the purpose of this guy and the way that he appears and interacts? And that is the same thing. His visionary ideas and his gift, I'm calling that on purpose a gift, to move in the way that he moves, which is freaking bold, in a lot of power, and it's just doing something without overthinking it. And he's he's accepting that there is a certain percentage of damage. Okay, so there is a time span over the last years and where he is now, and it will last probably another, for him, year, maybe a bit less than a year. At some point there will be a correction, if you want. Things in the world will shift and change, so that if he would not be course corrected in a way, his actions, maybe not even him personally as the character, but the way that he operates will be influenced in a way that if his path was like that somehow, uninfluenced, uncorrected, then there will be corrective forces and energies, and then maybe he will move a bit more like that. And this is the purpose of it. Okay, so we need some sort of intensity right now, which is what we're getting. Which brings me also to when we now look at Europe and this whole discussion. So how is it serving? I'm German, by the way, and I am in Germany. So how is this serving? How's it serving us? We as Europe, there's so much challenge over here going on as well. Okay, and then we have in Germany, and next week, in a week actually, we have elections. And there's more, like Portugal has elections this year. And I'm sure there's a couple more countries that I'm not aware of, but we're a big country in Europe, so there is elections and there's a lot of stuff going on, like in other countries in Europe as well. And what is one weakness for Europe as a continent, if you want? I'm not even necessarily pointing at the EU countries, but like just all of the European countries. What is a weakness? Is that we're so fragmented. And we're very, like, especially Germany, we're so slow in innovation. We're so slow in really in this disruptive process. We are so resistant to that overall, right? Again, we look in bird's eye view. So much resistance. We love optimizing in the existing, right? Because that feels safe. We're very good at that. But this is maxed out. And we're not getting, excuse my French, we're not getting our asses out of that. So how is this serving now when there's a US guy and the Russian guy, and then you have the Ukrainian guy, and they are, kind of sitting there and being like, oh, we've got Europe in the middle, and it's kind of like a play field, and let's put some verbal pressure on this, how we think what the role might be of this continent here. So what is this gifting us? I'm putting it in vertical commas as well. What is this? This is a force, an energetic force, if you want, that is inviting Europe to step the fuck up, to step up the game, to leave the known territory and come up with more innovative solutions. Because this continent, each country here has so much power, there's so much wisdom, so much knowledge, so many amazing people, but we've been sleeping on it. And this is it's like a wake-up push. This when you are in a plane and you go skydiving with a parachute, at some point, you know, if you don't jump, somebody will push you, and then you need to jump, and you know, oh, there is a parachute, oops, and it can open, and oh, I'm safe, cool, I'm having a new experience. I know that might seem a little bit far-fetched now from the examples, but this is exactly the energy of that. This is exactly the same concept of it. Again, we're looking bird's eye view, okay? Bird's eye view. What this is. Let me see if there was another note I took on that, but I think this was the major two things. So, and then trigger characters if you want. You look at Europe. This also got triggered, if you want, through Elon Musk. You may have seen or heard about this interview that he did with this woman here from the German, what is characterized as the right-wing party here. Okay, somehow it happened, I don't know how, that she had an interview with Elon Musk on his channel on X, where you would go like from logics, like, who cares, you know, who of his audience? And there's a lot of US people, nobody knows the party, nobody knows her, like, who the fuck is she? How does that serve? How does that make sense that this person is on his channel on X for an interview? Okay, to me, I tapped into that, and again, don't get lost in they said this sentence and then he said that sentence and she replied that. Ignore it. Look at just the overall, what is the dynamic in this? What is the concept? What is going on here? And what I got then, tapping into that, is like, well, how is this serving? What is the purpose of that? So what I got is, again, it is part of the triggering, because this action of Elon Musk initiating this and she taking the stage and they had this conversation. Obviously here it was all across the media. It was a big scandal. It's like, oh my goodness, how dare they, etc., etc. Again, it is a trigger that is inviting us to come up with different solutions. Okay, so it's all part of that game. It is waking us up. It is raising the level of urgency for creative solutions. And remember that creativity and being creative does not stop at art. Creativity at the core of the meaning of the word means the ability to find different and new solutions. That is what it means. It's your creator power. So it is all of these things happening, and people are more speaking up and being clearer. So that is the last thing for this part. The clarity of the words spoken. I'm not saying the content of what has been spoken, okay? Please keep the differentiation of that. But how things are being done is already something that is different. We are, as a majority of people, especially in Europe, we're used to listening to political leaders and parties, and a lot of times also economic leaders, people from corporations. When you hear them speak, even now when we're having here now the election promotions and all of the campaigns, you don't get clarity. You get these very vague vanilla statements of, yeah, and then we're going to deal with some, we're going to support the economy, we're going to support taxes, we're going to support the climate, you know, it's all the blah, 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 blah. Yeah, but if you ask then, like, but what exactly and how and when, right? The clarity is lacking. So what we see now, what is different and where we also get scared is we're not used to being in the situation of hearing leaders speak and deliver exactly in the clarity that they do at the moment. Again, we're not talking about the content and how and what exactly it is that they do. This is debatable, but the concept, okay, of, oh, in such clarity, they are saying what they want to do, oops, and like 3 weeks later, they're actually doing it? Should. We're not used to that anymore. And this is an invitation to rise into that and to find our own solutions. So for Europe, also for Germany, if we want to break it down to the elections here, that is the call, the higher vantage point of what I'm seeing for how it is serving. Will there be course corrections over the next 10 to 15 to 16 months? Absolutely. But that is the call that we get to rise into. Okay, to remember we're powerful, to remember that we are sovereign beings, and that it's okay to rise in our power. I'm going to do a different video on the misconception of what we've been told over the last 50 to 70 years, how we're not in our power and how we can't, and all of these things. This whole different story, right? Amazing. So last point, coming to the end of the video. By the way, if by now you feel like you have an idea for a title of this show, put it in the comments. I'm happy to hear, happy to listen, happy to read. Also, any other questions, comments, please put them down. And if you enjoy this type of content, also look into the show notes, into the description of the channel underneath the video. There's 2 things for you that might be interesting. Check them out. Like a next step, if you want to, if you're open. Also, please hit the notification bell here. Please follow the channel. Please connect and share with people who you feel that need this information as well, or that would love it and know how to find their own truth in that. So the last part is the category 3, which I said is the leader call. Where's your invitation to rise now? Leader, I mean, if you're an entrepreneur, you're passionate about something, I mean, there's always a reason why you start your business, right? Or you're an organizational leader, you're passionate about either the business unit that you're responsible for, or your area of responsibility where you're driving change, where you're driving innovation, where you're driving whatever it is. It can be anything, right? It can be HR, it can be something technological innovation, whatever it is, okay? So the question is, how can you sustain in this time that is extra challenging compared to the last years, or compared to how entrepreneurship anyhow is challenging and sometimes a tough road to pursue, but also higher leadership positions, right? You could have voted to not go into that position, and maybe it's a C-level position or whatever other kind of leadership position that you hold with a certain amount of responsibility. Also, obviously, is a requirement of your time, of your energy, your devotion to it. And in entrepreneurship, it's even more intense, I feel, having been on both sides. Been for a decade in the corporate world as well, before I turned into entrepreneurship. So how can we as leaders, how can you as a leader at the moment rise beyond that? How can you, what is the next step? What is this whole thing that is going on in the world? Also what we just talked about, what is it inviting you to? What can you do? So the message that I got to share with you is to look at what exactly might be triggering you in those moments when you allow that what you feel as stressful, okay? Does that, especially the content of what we just talked about, if whether that is Trump or Elon Musk or anything else, like any election campaign stuff in any of the countries, depending on where you're looking, where you're watching from, okay? Or something going on like Latin America, Argentina, that presidential guy stuff that was just out there. There's in so many areas of the world, there's a lot going on, and whether the socioeconomic or the political landscape at the moment, the news of that is triggering something in you around the themes of justice, injustice, that dynamic, okay, that you feel triggered in your own value system around this is maybe not fair, or this is not ethical, this is not, so things that tap into your value system, okay, could be one theme. If that is something you perceive that you find yourself struggling with a little bit, that calls for a little bit more of your energy at the moment, or if you are in the position of feeling frustrated by what feels to you, you know, the boldness of these messages, the speed and the pace of bam, things happening, and the next day and the next day and the next day, and it frustrates you that it feels like you can't really get to a point of clarity and going back to the things that are on your agenda that is relevant to you, and it feels like you're losing connection and clarity. And then at some point, you know, that might also feel scary, and scary can also show up as overwhelming, but also might show up, especially if you're a man, as frustration, okay? Or you feel, depending on how you're wired, a bit like, okay, now there's nothing you can do, and you're just going to sit in your corner and watch and feel whatever you feel like. Okay, so this is all reactions that you're having because you're connected to the things and the information. As I said in the beginning, always, if you feel like it's too much, you disconnect. Please stop watching these things. Stop being worried about what happens if you miss the news of the next 3 days. Well, nothing will happen. You will just feel better. And feeling better means you can come to more clarity within again. The overall theme, if you want to work with yourself a little bit, because you already know how to do that, you know, work with where you are in your growth journey and you want to find the next level of clarity as well, then the time and what all of these things are calling you to is, as the mirror of the outer world is always a mirror of our inner world. And if we as a collective see at the moment that in the outer world, whether it is the countries that are debating, okay, the US, Russia, Europe as a whole, maybe a single country, a separate country like Germany, this is all about power. It's all about being more bold about your own power. Also, the movements we see in the political programs of what Trump has been doing, and also if you look at certain right-winged parties in other countries, in France, in Germany, in wherever, all of the programs have a narrative overall of going back to focusing on the country. I mean, what is Trump doing? He says America first, okay? And he's also inviting and demanding that other countries take this perspective as well. Again, let's not get lost in the nitty-gritty discussions of what he or somebody else feels like, what exactly that should look like, but let's just stick with the theme of focusing on me first. And that is the invitation that all of us as leaders get at the moment as well. It does not mean that you don't care about other people. It does not mean that you don't care about your project, your business, your whatever. But the invitation is to reconnect back to your own power. And that is the, if you want to call that the ascension journey, the human evolution journey, whatever you want to call that, okay? But remembering your power, remembering who you are, because the creative solutions that are needed are within you. But you need another access to that. And that is what you only get when you disconnect from trying to save everyone else, whatever that looks like for you, over caring and over giving in your business, over delivering at work in the company that you potentially work with, kind of feeling like you need to sacrifice yourself in that project, do another extra hour, find another better solution, be faster in that, make more money. Pause from that for a moment, because from the level that you are trying to create new solutions now, and the growth or the leverage or the optimization, whatever it is that you're trying to create, the next step, the next level, it comes from the level of your own evolution that you have reached right now. But the solutions that will bring the breakthrough that you're looking for in the business or in the organization, they can only come from the next level of your personal evolution. So that means you got to go back within first and find that next level of growth, which means more power, your own sovereign power. Remember the concept from the beginning? We're moving into this network structure. It's not hierarchical within any longer, like hierarchical overall. And that accounts for you as the human being, the single one being as well. That means you become in a network structure, and that means automatically you are not just one dimension, you are more dimensions, and that they are all interconnected. Remember the plasma idea. That helps you to stabilize, but you need to find all of the different units of you within back. You have integrated probably a couple of them, but there's more. Remember when I talked about in the beginning, me remembering my cosmic parts, identities, that is the multidimensional parts of me, whether that is for me the Arcturian, where I remember and draw wisdom from. That is different for every person, okay? But that is the pathway to remember your power. Does not mean to put yourself on top of other people through the lens and the idea of the old hierarchical way, but means remembering your greatness. That is the power we're talking about. Sovereignty, that is the power we're talking about, okay? And that is the pathway, what the outer world, who is doing this through these characters at the moment, that are disrupting, that are pushing us into the disruption, that are forcing us to break open what is existing, what has been known and becomes the old now. You need to do the same with you. Allow breaking open and breaking through. And remember, look at the word members, you have different members within you. Remember more parts of you. This is where your power is. This is where your wisdom is. This is where the clarity comes from. And with that, you get a different database that you can use to come to new decisions, to new ideas and the solutions that you seek. And then you can bring it back into your business, into the role that you have, etc., etc. So that is what this time is calling for us leaders at the moment. That is the invitation we're getting strongly from the outer world to bring it back to you personally. Amazing, my gorgeous people. This is almost an hour. First video of these. Let me know what you feel, what you think about this. Please share with people you think might love this as well. And I will see you in the next video. I don't know when that's going to be there. Also, if you have an idea for a title, what you would call this type of a show, some sort of news, some sort of leadership, some sort of, I don't know. I haven't gotten to that conclusion yet and to that solution yet, but maybe this is going to be a co-creation with you. And I'll see you in the next video. Until then, feel free to follow me on the channel where you're seeing this, or you find, if you type my name or the Venture Visionary, on LinkedIn, on Facebook, and on Instagram as well. All right, I'll see you in the next video.